Hello learners, myself Dr. Sucharita Bhattacharya from Guru Nanak Institute of Technology, Kolkata. Welcome you all in my lecture session on semiconductor physics for Physics 1, first semester BTech course, and the streams under considerations are Computer Science and Engineering, Information Technology, and Food Technology. Today I am starting lecture 2 of my session. Now, what is there in today's session? We will discuss now the extrinsic semiconductors and the PN junction in continuation with my last session on intrinsic semiconductor, as today's lecture session is the second lecture session of the semiconductor physics, where total 3 lectures we have to deliver, which is the submodule 4.02 on semiconductor physics. Naturally, the questions to be addressed in today's session are: what are extrinsic semiconductors? What about the role of donor and acceptor impurities? What about intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductors, that is the comparison side by side? Then how PN junction is formed and how depletion region is formed and work. Okay. So let us start our today's session. Now, use of silicon and germanium in semiconductor devices are enormously stimulated if the conductivity of the tetravalent pure crystalline material can be considerably changed. More specifically, we can say if their conductivity we can increase, then definitely the working of the silicon and the germanium in semiconductor devices must be stimulated one. Now, how to achieve the increase of conductivity of the pure silicon and the germanium? This is achieved in a controlled manner by adding very small amount of either a trivalent or pentavalent impurity, because silicon and germanium have the valency of 4. Now, the suitable pentavalent element commonly used for impurity addition in the form of doping material are phosphorus with atomic number 15, arsenic with atomic number 33, and antimony with atomic number 51. Similarly, the suitable elements used as trivalent impurity with valency of 3 to pure germanium or silicon are boron with atomic number 5, aluminium with atomic number 13, gallium with atomic number 31, and indium with atomic number 49. So just take a look. We are considering two classes of impurity. One is the pentavalent, other is the trivalent, because the original intrinsic semiconductors were silicon and the germanium, whose valency is 4. So I think you are getting the idea. The interesting situation is going to happen. Let us now take a look one after another. Now, if for example pentavalent antimony, that means stibnum, is added to tetravalent germanium, that is Z equal to 32, and a carefully controlled heating and cooling schedule is undertaken, definitely the antimony ion will replace few of the germanium ions at several places. This is the antimony or the stibnum. It will replace few of the germanium at several places in the lattice. Now, an antimony is surrounded symmetrically by 4 germanium ions, can provide 4 valence electrons required for covalent bonding. So it has 5 valence electrons. The 4 electrons it can provide with 4 germanium to provide for the covalent bonding, but it has the 5th electron in excess. Now, what about the energy of this 5th electron? It is very, very important. The energy of this excess electron is only slightly less than the energy level at the bottom of the conduction band. The energy of this fifth electron is only slightly less than the bottom of the conduction band. That means if you can provide only small amount of energy, these electrons can come out of the atoms to move to the conduction band to take part in conduction. An energy of only 0.01 eV order is necessary to detach this fifth electron from the atom, which can then take part in conduction on receiving the thermal energy at room temperature. Actually, the amount of energy requirement is very small, of the order of 0.01 eV, which you can have from the thermal energy even at room temperature. And in that case, the fifth electron will be detached from the atom by receiving the thermal energy. It becomes free and it will move to the conduction band to take part in conductivity. That means it will increase the conductivity of this impurity semiconductor or extrinsic semiconductor. An impurity so added to give an excess of electrons is called donor. Because this impurity donates electrons, that's why it is called the donor impurity. A suitable controlled addition of donor pentavalent atom to either germanium or silicon can increase the conductivity, which is now primarily due to the electron in the conduction band. So definitely this material is termed as N-type semiconductor, N for negatively charged carrier, that is the electron. That means by adding the pentavalent impurity to tetravalent silicon or germanium, you can enhance the conductivity of the extrinsic semiconductor so formed, which is termed as N-type semiconductor, because large number of free charge carriers in the form of negatively charged electrons are now available. So I think things are very much clear to all of you, isn't that? Let us now move to the next one. Now, addition of trivalent impurity. So, addition of trivalent impurity to germanium or silicon, obviously we will expect a different effect. What about that? Let us take a look. Previous one, pentavalent, it is now trivalent, but the basic intrinsic of your semiconductor is remaining same, that is tetravalent, either silicon or germanium. Now, for example, if an indium atom replaces one of the germanium in the crystal lattice, this is the indium, it is replacing one of the germanium in the crystal, then what will happen? It will be able to provide only 3 of the 4 electrons necessary for covalent bonding. For covalent bonding, for 4 neighbors, we need obviously the 4 electrons. Okay. Now, it is indium is trivalent, so it has 3 electrons, not the fourth one. So, there is now a vacancy or the positive hole which is available for the electrons. The energy of this positive hole, what about that? So, previous case you had excess of electron, here you have deficit of electron in the form of vacancy or the positive hole. The energy of this positive hole is just above the top of the valence band. The energy of this positive hole is just above the top of the valence band. So, electron from this band can easily be excited by thermal energy to occupy the position of these vacancies, so that leaving behind the vacancies by absorbing the thermal energy, and the vacancies will be there in the valence band. Okay. So here the situation is something different because here you are using trivalent impurity. So you have three valence electrons in place of four. So one vacancy is there or deficit of electron is there so far as covalent bonding is concerned. Now, the energy of this electron is slightly above the top of the valence band. So, definitely electrons from this band are easily excited by thermal energy to enter into this hole, leaving vacancies or holes behind them in the valence band. So again you can increase the conductivity of the material but with the help of the positive hole conduction this time because the positive holes now move in the valence band towards the opposite direction and electrons will move this direction towards the conduction band. Sorry, the material is therefore called the p-type semiconductor. P for positive hole. So, in case of trivalent impurity, you can enhance the conductivity of the extrinsic semiconductor so formed is called the p-type semiconductor because here hole conduction, that is the positively charged carrier conduction, is taking place. That's why it is p-type. And obviously the impurities so added here are acceptor because it accepts the electron. The impurities so added are called the acceptor impurities because it accepts the electrons. Here there is deficiency. Okay. So I hope you can compare now side by side what about the difference between extrinsic semiconductors N-type and P-type very clearly. All possible aspects are discussed now. Okay. Now, let us move to have something more so far as intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductors are concerned. It is found only a very small fraction of donor or acceptor impurities need to be added to have a pronounced effect on conductivity. How small? It is found that only one donor atom in 10 to the power 8 germanium or silicon atoms can increase the conductivity of germanium by about 10 times at room temperature. So, one donor in 10 to the power 8 germanium atoms increases the conductivity of germanium by about 10 times at room temperature. Okay. Now for intrinsic semiconductor, look at very carefully. The number of electrons and the holes available are equal as current carrier because a positive hole is created in the valence band only if electron departs for the conduction band. This is quite obvious that in case of intrinsic semiconductor, the number of holes and electrons must be equal because positive hole is created in the valence band by the departure of electron for the conduction band. But in case of N-type semiconductor, what will happen? There is excess of electron and the number of holes are less than that of the parent intrinsic semiconductor because the large number of electrons present tend to provide several to fill up the vacancies. Obviously, excess of electrons are present here, so these are able to fill up the vacancies of the holes. So the holes available will be less than that of the parent intrinsic semiconductor. Very, very important point to consider. So, in case of N-type semiconductors, the electrons are majority carrier and the holes are the minority carriers. So, what about the case for P-type semiconductor? Let us now take a look. In case of P-type semiconductor, majority carriers are the positive holes and the number of electrons, the minority carriers which are available for conduction is less than the intrinsic parent semiconductor, because here majority carriers are positively charged holes. So definitely the number of electrons will be neutralized and small number of electrons now will be available for conduction, because for conduction, and definitely the small number of electron means it is less than that of the parent semiconductor material. Okay, so things are just opposite in case of n type and the p type. Now let us have some idea about the concentrations. In an intrinsic semiconductor, the number of electrons per unit volume represented by Ne as current carrier obviously equal to the number of positive holes Np. We have discussed few minutes back. Naturally, Ne equal to Np equal to Ni, where Ni is the intrinsic concentration. So for intrinsic semiconductor, the situation is Ne equal to Np equal to Ni. But what about the case for extrinsic semiconductor? It is Ne into Np equal to Ni square. So for extrinsic semiconductors, Ne into Np equal to Ni square. Now if the number of donor atoms per unit volume in n-type semiconductor is represented by Nd. What about Nd? Number of donor atoms per unit volume. Then definitely they will represent nearly all positive ions, because donor atoms will donate electrons, so leaving behind the positively charged ions. So total number of positive charges per unit volume obviously in n-type semiconductor will be Nd plus Np, because Np is the number of positive holes per unit volume and it is the number of positively charged ions of the donor atom per unit volume. Okay. Now the semiconductor was electrically neutral at the beginning. Semiconductor was electrically neutral at the beginning. So it must be electrically, it must remain electrically neutral right now also. So after the impurity addition too. So Nd plus Np must be equal to Ne. So for intrinsic semiconductor, it was electrically neutral. So after impurity addition, obviously the neutrality must be there. So Nd plus Np, the total positive charges per unit volume must be equated to Ne, the total negative charges in the form of available electrons per unit volume. Okay. Now Ne is much greater than Np. Ne is much greater than Np, because number of electrons are the majority carrier in case of n-type semiconductor. So naturally Nd nearly equal to Ne. Nd nearly equal to Ne. So very important conclusion we can draw now, that number of electrons available for conduction is approximately equal to the number of donor atoms in an n-type semiconductors. Number of electrons available for conduction is approximately equal to the number of donor atoms in an n-type semiconductor. In case of p-type semiconductor, similarly we can show that Na, the number of acceptor atoms per unit volume, will be approximately equal to Np, the concentration of positive holes. Na must be equal to Np, the concentration of positive holes, equal to the number of acceptor atoms. Now from A we know Np equal to Ni square. So what about Np? Ni square by Ne. Now Ne equal to Nd. So Np equal to Ni square by Na. So Np equal to Ni square by Ne. What about Ne? So Np equal to Ni square by Na. Here it may be noted that though the positive ions in the lattice contribute to the total charge of 0, very, very important, that positive ions give us the electrical neutrality, but they are locked in the lattice and so do not take part in conduction. But they are locked in the lattice, so do not take part in conduction. So positive ion, that is the lattice ion, they make the total charge or total charge to be 0, that means charge neutrality in the semiconductor, but they are locked in the lattice being very heavy, so they do not take part in the conduction. Okay. Now next part is the most important part here, that is the p-n junction. We have seen the p-type semiconductor, we have seen the n-type semiconductor. Then what about p-n junction? Is it the way that p-type and n-type semiconductors are sandwiched to form the junction? No, no, the situation is not like that. When a semiconductor like silicon and the germanium is doped with impurity in such a way that one side has a large number of acceptor impurities and the other side has a large number of donor impurities, then only p-n junction is formed. That means p-n junction is formed from a single crystal of either silicon or the germanium, but by doping with impurity in such a way that one side of it has more acceptor impurity and the other side has more donor impurity, forming p side and the n side, then only p-n junction is obtained. Naturally, to construct a p-n junction, one may diffuse a donor impurity to a pure semiconductor so that the entire sample becomes n-type. So that the entire sample becomes n-type. Then acceptor impurity can be diffused in higher concentration from one side to make that side p-type, just like this one. That to construct the junction, you first take a pure intrinsic semiconductor, either silicon or the germanium, then diffuse with donor impurity to form the n-type silicon or the germanium, then diffuse the acceptor impurity from one side in higher concentration so that that side is converted to p-type to give you the p-n junction. So this is the idealized situation of a p-n junction immediately after the formation. This is the idealized situation of a p-n junction immediately after the formation, or you can say at the time of formation, where the left half is made p-type and the right half is made n-type. Left half is made p-type and the right half is made n-type. So we can say the left side to be the p side and the right side to be the n side. But mind it, this is the situation only at the time of formation. We can consider this cannot be an equilibrium situation because there is concentration difference of the holes as well as the electrons from left to right. So holes which are on the left, that is the p-type case, and the electrons which are on the right side, that is the n-type semiconductors, their concentration a little bit difference is there where at the time of p-n junction formation, because you have to consider the case of the ions too, okay, though they are not mobile. Now there is large concentration of holes in the left half and only a small concentration of holes in the right half, because in addition to the positively charged ions on the right half, because electrons are there, you are starting with the intrinsic semiconductor, that means with n-type, say, and then you have converted it to p-type from other side. So definitely you cannot expect that both electrons and the holes will be 100% distributed on both sides. Definitely depending upon the direction of diffusion, their concentration varies, but definitely all holes on one side, all electrons on the other side is practically not possible. So there is a concentration of holes on one side very high, here left half, only a small concentration of holes in the right half. So there will be diffusion of holes from the left side towards the right side. Similarly, because of concentration difference of electrons from the right to left, electrons will diffuse from right to left, though the ions I already mentioned do not move because of their heavy masses. So because of concentration difference from left to right, holes will move and electrons will move from right to left. Now, two halves were electrically neutral definitely at the beginning as we have seen. But diffusion of holes to the right makes this side positively charged and diffusion of electrons to the left makes this side negatively charged. Isn't that? So you are getting it very clearly that more concentration of holes are here. So it will diffuse to the right. So definitely this side will be positively charged and more concentration of electrons are here, it will diffuse to the left. So there will be the more concentration of electrons now here. So it will be negatively charged. So left half negatively charged, right half positively charged. So definitely this will create an electric field near the junction. It will create an electric field near the junction from right to left because it is moving towards right and electrons are moving towards left. So near the junction we will have the electric field. This side there will be the positive, this side there will be the negative. Just take a look. This side there will be the positive and this side there will be the negative on both sides of the junction in the immediate neighborhood. But any hole because of that, this is the positive, this is the negative side. And because of that, any hole which is trying to diffuse towards the right will face opposition. So it will be pushed towards the left by the electric field and obviously any electron near the junction is pushed away by the electric field into the right. Isn't that? Just take a look. I'm repeating this portion once more that holes are moving towards right, electrons are diffusing towards left. So this side will be positively charged, this side will be negatively charged. So you are getting an electric field is developed near the junction with the right side positive one and the left side with the negative one. Now any hole near the junction is pushed by the electric field in the left half because it is positively charged, so it will repel. These positive charges will repel it, so it will move away. And similarly, electrons when try to go to that side, it will be moved away by this negative charge. So near the junction, you will get a region where there is no positive or the negative charges. It cannot go there, it will come here. And similarly, these cannot go here, it will come back. So in that portion, just take a look. In the immediate vicinity of the junction, there is depletion of the positive and the negative charges. In the immediate vicinity of the junction, there is depletion of the positive and the negative charges, which is termed as the depletion region. No charge carrier is available in a small region near the junction known as the depletion region. No charge carrier is available in a small region near the junction which is called the depletion region. because of the electric field formation in the neighborhood of the junction, any further diffusion of hole from left to right will be prohibited, and any further diffusion of electron from right to left will also be prohibited. So we will get a small region in the immediate vicinity of the junction is totally depleted of any positive or the negative charges, and this region is termed as the depletion layer or the depletion region. Obviously its thickness or width is very small. It is of the order of micrometer. The thickness or width of the depletion layer or the region is of the order of micrometer. It is called depletion layer because it is depleted of any type of charge carrier, either positive charge carrier or the negative charge carrier. So you students, I hope you are understanding now that how the PN junction is formed and how the depletion region is formed in the PN junction. So for today, what we have discussed so far, we have discussed the extrinsic semiconductor or impurity semiconductor in very detail in presence of the impurity addition, that is the P type and the N type one, and then compare their properties with intrinsic semiconductors, because extrinsics are formed with from intrinsic, so we have to compare them side by side. After the formation of P-type and N-type semiconductor, we now got the idea that how PN junction is formed, and most importantly, how depletion region is created there, which is devoid of or depleted of any type of positive and the negative charge carrier. So students, I hope you understand and you enjoy the session, and I must say thank you all because of your patience and you listen to me. That's why. And if you have any query or the doubt, please feel free to contact me. My contact I already have given to you at the beginning. And mind it, in the next session, we will continue our discussion on PN junction in the form of drift current and the diffusion current, and then most important applications that we have to do here in continuation of our laser chapter, that is the semiconductor laser, because now semiconductor functionalities are becoming clear to us. So in the next session we will continue with the PN junction working, as well as we will clarify there that how semiconductor laser works with the help of PN junction. Okay. So bye students. Enjoy your days.